Hi and hello everyone. Good day, good morning, good evening, and welcome to another webinar with Zig Zsiga and myself, Mohammed Radwan. Today we have a very exciting one. We're talking about your future. We're talking about how to improve your career. We are trying here to help you to decide or make evaluation, be an architect trying to do what is the best for you, evaluating the option. So we will talk about CCDE or evolving technologies and what you need to do. So with me today, Zig, I'm happy to have you. I've been doing that for the last 5 months. So if you have something to start the discussion today.
Yeah, you're real quick. Hey, everyone. Good day. As that's an inside joke. You know, it's morning, it's afternoon, and evening for all of us, depending on where we are in the world today. And like Mohammed said, we've been doing these for the last 5 months, 6 months now. And normally we're very, very interactive. And I don't know, we're not going to have a lot of time for the interactiveness this time around. So just keep that in mind. If you have questions, throw them in chat. They'll get answered. But if you're not asking a question and you're not talking, please put yourself on mute. All those kind of, household responsibility things for a webinar. And then we're going to drive right in. We're going to just kind of jump right into everything we have to talk about. So I appreciate you all joining, and I'm going to turn it back to Mohammed to start the show.
Thank you, Zig. So today we'll talk about, as I mentioned, CCDE or evolving technologies. We'll have a panel discussion. As I mentioned, the last 15 minutes we'll have the audience questions and comments. So I'm glad today, I'm very excited to have with me, and we'll start alphabetically. We have Daren. Daren is a 25 years experienced veteran engineer. He worked in all the network stuff, starting from support, and he's currently handling the role of network automation evangelist for one of the network software vendor. He's also a CCDE, CCIE, and he's actually a member and part of the CCIE Advisory Council. These are the group which they are helping Cisco in developing the exam and developing the certification. And I believe he also founded the INET 6, which is an initiative for network monitoring and network automation. So glad to have you, Daren, with us today.
Yeah, really happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, fellas. Yeah, looking forward to the discussion.
We have also Orhan Ergun. Orhan is a well-known network architect. He's also CCIE, CCDE. He's an author, he's a trainer, he's a mentor. He actually published many books. He has almost 20 years of experience, and he's been also working as a consultant for many of the service provider and enterprises. So again, happy to have you again, Orhan. We have a couple of sessions with us, and I'm sure it will be beneficial today, and you will add a lot to the group.
Hopefully. Hi guys.
Yeah, and last but not least, our lead guitar, Stuart Clark. He will amaze us all today and entertain us with his information about DevNets and network design. He's actually one of the person who created the DevNet track on Cisco, and he's actually focusing on network automation, DevNets, and he worked in many network projects as a network architect. So again, welcome on board, Stuart.
Thank you. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here today with you all.
Yeah. So just before we start, Zig, when we're talking about evolving technologies, just to set the ground, what specific technologies we are talking about today, and we want to focus on?
So, I think that's a great question, right? We gotta define evolving technologies a little bit. The premise of the webinar is, CCDE and evolving technologies. Well, I think everyone kind of at a high level knows what the CCDE is, and we can go into that. There's not much fluff or misdirection on what the CCDE is. So the evolving technologies, I think there's a number of things that we could talk about, right? So, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mohammed. Obviously, we're going to talk about DevOps, DevNet, programmability, automation. I think those all kind of fit in that evolving technologies bucket. And I think the question there, what other things fall into that? So what, in your opinion, falls in there?
As I mentioned, it's a big bucket and keep evolving. So maybe all some technologies like cloud, some people still consider it evolving technologies, even it's been with us for at least 12 years or 15 years. 5G, but as Zig mentioned, we try to concentrate today on programmability, automation, infrastructure as a code, and so on. So let's start with the first question. Or please tell me if an engineer with 5 years experience working maybe as an implementation or operational role, and he start thinking about CCDE. So from your perspective, why should he go after CCDE, and what value it will bring to his career and skills?
Okay, I think I will be answering this, right? So, basically, if we are talking about CCDE certification, because for me, it's CCDE like lifestyle, to be honest, why they should go after this, right? It is totally, it was the only design exam so far, still purely design-wise, only design exam CCDE. By the way, I am getting some background noise, maybe.
Yeah, please, can you please mute yourself, everyone?
Can you all mute, please? So, while I'm speaking, please, can you mute yourself? Yeah? Better for everyone. Or if we can do it from our side.
Just give us a second. We'll figure out who it is. And Mohammed will leave them.
So someone is speaking and
Mute him. Go ahead, Orhan.
yeah.
Still here.
So
1 second.
I started this training for some months now, and what we are seeing, CCR Enterprise also has design module, but limited, of course. Purely design exam, if you are looking for.
Yeah.
Right. Understand, guys. There will be always some choices. Okay, I think now it's better for people mute and we can speak. It's very clear. So
Yeah.
there will be always choices. There is no single best technology. There is no any protocol, anything that can bring only benefits. There will be always problems as well. Okay, whatever you think. If routing protocols, same thing. If you are talking about some labeling protocols, same thing. If you are talking some switching, same thing. Security, same. So there will be always choices, and one choice will be from some aspect better than others. But without giving aspect, architects, designers, they don't talk about this is best. These are not correct. Definitely, we don't talk this way. Very new, fresh network engineers, you cannot expect from them to understand this idea immediately. The benefit, the value of CCDE, you are starting to think this way. Okay, if I see route reflectors, why it should bring benefits and problem. If I go with why it should bring problems and benefits. Always trade-offs, always this analysis you are doing. Yeah, you are applying this to real life. If I select this one, what I will lose? Immediately your brain starts thinking this way. Of course, you are learning many technologies. You have to learn if you want to get this. Many ISA, you are coming from, let's say, enterprise background, you don't know maybe. Fine. Or if you are from self-provider, but you don't know ERGRP protocol, I'm giving example, many people because familiar. You have to learn those stuff, but not configuration aspect, design aspect. So you will compare things, you will find the trade-offs, but you will not search. Your brain will automatically decide because you will know them in advance. So if you are talking today, I am an architect, you should do the architecture. How you can be better architect? By doing the architecture. So I usually recommend this certification, by the way, for those doing the design job, maybe solution architecture, those kind of. Your only job is basically configuring some devices. It's hard for you. It's not impossible, maybe, but hard for you, just thinking very abstracted way, high level. Mm-hmm. We are not going into any low-level details, guys. Those low-level detail LLD documents, actually, it's not the job of designer or architect. So for me, everything is abstraction. Got my point? So this is important. I don't need to know the details of the implementation. Yesterday we did this discussion on LinkedIn design architecture. You can find me also on our YouTube channel as well. So same idea we talk. No implement. So why they decided this way, not the other way? You remember why BGP? It was BGP the decision. Now the open fabric, etc. So why we are interested in designs, and we believe why is more important than how and what. What we're always saying. Don't forget this. The network architecture design. So the only design exam. Network architecture is the thing you cannot find on Google. You cannot Google and you cannot say, okay, which one is best? That's it. You cannot find it on Google. That's a value, but obviously, many people might be telling you, I will do the best. We discussed, I think, with Daren, maybe last week.
We did.
Yeah, there is no best. I cannot be best CCD instructor. As you might know, I have been teaching CCD for 7-8 years, but there is no best. I should give some context. Okay, maybe knowledge-wise, I am the most knowledgeable. Maybe cost-wise, I am the cheapest. Maybe other aspects, I can say best because context. From this point of view, I am best. I can say, but I am delivering best training. Forget about it. You cannot be best on everything. Let's not forget this. I think it's enough. Huh?
No, thank you. I really like what you mentioned, especially like each and every choice has good and bad side, and you need to evaluate. And I like your market is like the job. When you go search in Google and find how to do the architecture. This is Zig, any thoughts or point of add?
Yeah, hey guys. So I don't know if you guys can hear me. I don't know if it's me. So no, what Orhan said. So a couple things, right? I think you have a design mindset shift, right? I think that the entire journey towards the certification, your mindset and how you design and why you design literally changes. And to the point that Orhan made, it's all about why. It may not be all the way up to that business level yet, but that's where it's starting, right? You're starting to understand that you have to do things for a reason. And you have to compare different solutions and different capabilities and pick the right capability and right solution for the reason why to that customer and that situation that you're in. So I think it's extremely imperative there.
Yeah. No, I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
Which leads into the next question, I think, Mohammed.
Yeah, so this next question real quick, right? So I'm going to ask this, and who are we asking it to? It's blue. We got a color code I don't know by heart. So Daren, it's Daren. You already knew this, man. So yeah, how will the CCD help you today and in the future, buddy?
So it's exactly what you guys have been saying, right? So the point of the DE is not to understand the configuration details of how to do stuff. It's about understanding what capabilities a technology brings to your solution, and I understand how your solution solves a problem for the business. So you've already touched on this, Zig, about understanding the business requirements and the constraints that are around that, which is what Orhan was talking about with having to have the trade-off scenario where you look at the technologies you want to deploy, you understand where it brings benefit and where it brings issues, and you balance all those things out to give the best solution. What do we mean by the best solution? That's the problem that Orhan was talking about. The point is that you have a set of requirements and you have to try and meet those requirements. And typically what that's about is making sure that the IT service that runs over that network that you're trying to build is available. So you've got to understand what we mean by that availability and be able to understand what the impact of your network design at a top level has on that availability, right? All of that feeds in. So from looking at that, what that means now and what that means to the person who's doing the studying, really it's from my journey and most people who go through the DE, it's about, as you say, Zig, that mindset shift. It's about saying, right, look, I've learned how to configure things. I've gone through that process. I've got experience of doing that. I may have got certified in that. Some people go as far as the CCIE. Some don't, because they don't necessarily need to. But it's about them being able to go, right, I get how that configuration and low-level design stuff works because I understand how to bolt things together. But what I now need to do is change my view, get a lot broader, understand how services work and why they work the way they work, and then understand the impact that has on the network design. It broadens your view, that change of mindset, and it allows you to talk in a different language, right? So you touched on this, Zig, about being able to think about the business concerns. You can take your higher level view and you can go talk to someone in the business or go talk to someone in operations and explain to them why it is the technology choices you're making help them. And for me, that's the key to this. It's that thing of being able to, yes, I can sit and talk to someone who knows how to configure this stuff, right? I can explain to them why you might choose to use a particular routing protocol in a particular way, or why you might not want to play with spanning tree over two interconnected data centers, or all of those kinds of conversations. But I can also then take that same information in a different form and go speak to the server infrastructure team and explain to them why that's a bad thing, or take that to the business and say, well, actually, that might impact your availability in this way, and so on and so forth. And so it is being able to have all of those different viewpoints, I suppose, at the high level. Does that make sense?
Great. Yeah, I think that's great, Daren, really. And I like to call this term, and I hate to put myself on a soapbox, but like, I'll be real quick, right? I think the CCDE lets you actually bridge that gap. And I say that gap is you're bridging the technology side of things and you're to the business side of things. And the business can be really anything, right? Like you had some examples there of talking to different departments, different kind of owners of, I would say, business lines of efforts. So your applications team or the server team or whoever you're working with, now you can go to them and say, hey, this is why we're doing this from a technology perspective, and it maps to this business effort. And it's really clear. Sorry, it's really clear cut. No, I think that's great. Hey, Mohammed, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I agree, 100% agree. Even it's happened to myself. I've been working on design since 2004 for the last 15 years. And I noticed a difference with when I working on new project, when meeting customer, when asking questions. One of the skills you will learn with CCD, how to ask a question, how to gather information. If you are meeting CTO, what kind of question you ask, completely different than if you are meeting one of the engineers on the ground. So it's add a lot. Even some people I work with and I help them through their journey. What I really love, not in addition that they maybe get the CCD magic number, is they tell me that after CCDE we got this architect role in Amazon, or we got this architect role in a big enterprise. So they themselves saw the difference and saw the change which CCDE brought to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's all about the viewpoints and and being able to look at it from different angles, for sure.
So to
exactly. So do you want to, maybe I'll open it up for 30 seconds to a minute for the other panelists, if you guys have any other thoughts on this question, and then we'll move on to the next question. Orhan or Stuart, do you guys have any thoughts on this?
I was talking, but it was muted. At the point while there came to my mind, I want to say for very advanced, if you're targeting guys to job, or there is no better thing to get another job, probably CCD is not for you. You should consider CCIE. The reason for this, CCD, as I told, they're abstracted. So you are deciding the architecture. So, and some domain experts, security people, wireless people, classical network engineer who need to troubleshoot, who need to deploy the things, those will do their job. They will implement, they will deploy, but you will decide the architecture. And as you might know, today vendors are deciding most of the time, or CTO, those people, they say, yeah, we already decided. So pre-made decisions are known as constraints, okay, in design. So constraints are there, already, it's ready. So vendors are coming and saying, okay, we will do this. We will ACI, they will maybe do this. Integrator people, they will do. So people not look lots of CCD. No, maybe 1% and 99% will be against CCIE. This is not changing. Don't forget this. But if you want to be in that 1% as an architect, yes, CCDE for that.
Yeah. Just to finish on that one, obviously the CCIE, the new version of the CCIEs that were sort of released earlier this year, they all incorporate an element of design in the lab experience. So the lab experience now is about going through a design process, a build process, and an operate process, and it's all brought into the 8-hour day. What it doesn't do is talk about the level of design and architecture that we're talking about today. Okay, this is very much about how you put a solution together when you know what the elements are. What we're talking about is how you decide what technologies you want to implement and why. And there's a very clear demarcation between the two. Okay, it's that high-level design, low-level design. It's even higher than high-level design because it's architecture and a high-level design, and on the DE side, and it's low-level design on the IE side. And I'm going to leave it there because we've got not much time and lots of stuff to get through.
So quick, can you give 30 seconds, give an example of those? Like what would be an architectural high-level example?
Well, so we just talked to Orhan mentioned ACI there when he was talking. So from an architectural perspective, what you might do is make the decision. Oh, I want to use ACI because it gives me all this capability in terms of the constructs that I want to use, the security, the scalability, and those sorts of things at a high level. In an IE context, what that's more like in a low-level design is like saying, well, I've got to build an ACI fabric, so I need to put the spine switches here and the leaf switches there, and this is how I connect them to the WAN and that sort of thing. So it's the specifics of the implementation, right? As opposed to making the decisions about what you're going to implement and why. It's about how you do the implementation, and that's the difference.
Awesome, thanks, Daren. I appreciate it. Hey, Mohan, take it over, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. This was exciting. So next question, and be fair. So let's see the other side and help me here, Stuart. You're the most experienced. As we mentioned, we try to, when we evolve technologies today, we are more concerned about infrastructure as a code and programmability, DevNet, and so on. So why would somebody go after evolving technologies, and what are the value it will bring?
Hey, yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So why would you go after evolving technologies? For me personally, I started to see a shift in the industry a number of years ago. Well, let's remember that automation, within networking, it's not new. There's folks have been doing it for a very, very long time. Even in the very early days of my career, there was people doing Perl and Bash scripts to automate all of their networks. So this isn't a new, it's not a new thing. It's not just come out of the middle of nowhere. And it's not a phase either. We've seen, huge trajectories, huge momentum since releasing the DevNet certifications. I think, when you look statistically, over something like 6,000 people have taken a DevNet certification since February. I think the numbers are stacking up now, and this is what we're, seeing as a whole of how people are expanding their knowledge into programmability on top of networking engineering skills. And that to me doesn't mean that all network engineers have to become software engineers. Far from that. That's not what I'm saying. When people ask me how I think about this, the way that I think about this is I learned programmability, I learned network automation to make my job easier, to make my life easier. That was the main thing. It was one of those things to automate away the boring things. That was the first thing. Because nobody wants to be that engineer on a Friday night going around 300 devices doing a show version and copying it into an Excel sheet. You can do that with automation. And once you've started working through those kind of use cases, you can start to build the impact in for the business, and the business can see a tremendous amount of impact in there from doing that. So you're taking, an engineering team away from doing, what might be considered the laborious tasks and all of those things, and utilizing their skills everywhere, because a network manager who's running a team doesn't want 3 or 4 members of their team doing this toil. And this is where automation and programmability can come in and we can start to build scripts and share those with the other people within in our organization. So the value becomes in there the whole time saving across, the things. But then the other factor that comes into it as well is the human element of mistakes. Now, I'll be the first person to hold my hand up and say that I've made a mistake on a network device. And I'll be the first person to hold my hand up and say, yes, I've caused an outage. And I will also be the person to say, I've caused an outage at scale. Am I proud of all these things? Absolutely not. But it does happen. I can't avoid that. Errors do happen within, configuration. Everybody will make mistakes. It's, I think somewhere there they say that 80 to 90% of outages are caused by, human input and error. And by doing automation, what I learned at automation is that I could deploy at scale and also minimize that risk. But that doesn't go to say as well, on the other side of that coin, that there isn't any risk with automation. I've also said in the past is that you don't want to be that person that say, to your manager, to your boss, to your company, I took down the network. That's the bad news. The good news is I did it with automation. No one wants to be that person either. So, as a counter to coin what they said on Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. But this is why we have things like peer reviews. This is why we have a CI/CD process in there. This is why we build now validation into these things, which becomes part of the evolving technologies. So you've learned to write the code. You can get information. Now you want to make changes, but while you're making those changes, also invest into doing all of the validation that comes along with this as well, and being that person to say, my code has been validated, so you have the highest degree of confidence that these evolving technologies that you're using today, whether you're doing this from a controller or whether you're doing it through open source, like Python scripts using like a Scrappy or PyATS, Napalm, NetMiko, etc., or you're doing this for a controller like NSO or SD-WAN, DNA Center, this goes on. Whether you're doing that, your rate of success is going to be so much higher.
Can I just pitch in? Can I just pitch in a second? Because I think you just touched on something that's really important there, Stuart. That automation in itself is really just doing the same things we always did, but quicker and at bigger scale, right? But what you've just touched on there is the key point, I think, to the DevNet approach. What it's about is not just doing things quicker and faster and bigger, but wrapping all the stuff around it that means that you're actually improving the quality of the process. So all of that validation, all of that testing and stuff that you're building into the approach, that's the thing that makes the difference. Sorry, guys. I just really wanted to hammer that point home.
That very valid point that actually linked to my question that automation is just a tool, but looking for like that framework, like the orchestration, the CCDE, how to make sure that's continuous integration, development, maybe controlling with GitLab. I believe it's like infrastructure as a code, treating the network like a small program, and how to make like the DevOps promise that you have to do maybe hundreds of changes to the network on one day. This is also for us as a network engineer, we are hoping to see something like that. But my follow-up, Stuart, if for a network engineer like myself, which been and Daren, which been in the industry for more than 20 years, we've been more like cable guys, to go and work the evolving technology. This involves many branches. You need to work on, you need to understand maybe something like GitLab. You need to have a bit of SDN, have a bit of automation like Python. So how to balance between all technologies, and it would be easy.
And it's when if you're imagining yourself stood at the bottom of the mountain of this, looking up towards the summit, it's very daunting. And it is a common question of what should I learn first, and then what should I learn next? And then you come to this kind of crossroads, and do you go down, this road with, let's say Circle CI or GitHub Actions, or do you go down the Jenkins route? And we know when you start to look into all of the tools, and sometimes, if you're doing this for yourself and you're investigating those tools, pick which ones, seem cool to you. If there's a whole business strategy involved in this, if you're doing some kind of assessment of which CI/CD pipeline comes to it, that's a whole different another question. There's a whole different series that comes in there with all of the support. But you're absolutely right. You're looking at this, and the whole it's a whole different world to come into from network engineering, to step into the developer world and see all of the tools that they're running and finding out in the developer ecosystem what these tools are, where they sit. And it's to me, it's like putting together like a jigsaw puzzle, finding out where all these pieces sit and then just gluing them together. There's no need to feel overwhelmed, because I can assure you that there's probably only 1% of people out there who actually know all of the tools, and it might even be less than 1%. I'm sure Daren knows every one of them by the back of his hand. So he knows all of them. I certainly don't know. I don't know all of them. People. It's funny. I was following a chat before we jumped into the call, and someone said, "What's your experience with Grumpy?" I was like, "I've never heard of this." So all of a sudden, I'm looking at it thinking, "Hey, this is cool. How can I bring this into my workflows? Is it going to serve me any value?" And that's the question. Is it going to bring you any value? That's the question.
Again, I'm sorry, I've got to dive in here just a second, because this is the conversation we were having immediately before the call about the DevNet Associate exam and what that brings. And everything that Stuart just said is what the DevNet Associate is about. It's about understanding what it means to build that kind of ecosystem and why you would do it and what the approach is. It's not about saying, use this tool, use that tool, use that tool, okay? It's about being able to understand what those tools bring to the process. You have to go and find out what those tools are yourself, and you have to assess whether or not that's the right tool for you or not. And there's echoes of the CCDE in that whole thing, because it's about being able to weigh up the right tool for the right job. But the point is, those processes are all there. The processes are all there. And I just waved this book, right? Genius. But the point is, it's all the whole mindset of the DevNet Associate is encapsulated in something like that, where you go through the process, you understand, you get into the brains of the people who understand this stuff, and you take that mindset on board. And it's the same. The same goes for the DE. Absolutely, completely. This is probably the closest thing I found to doing the DE in terms of process. And I will back
so let me put a question to you then, Daren. Sorry, I just want to ask a question.
No, please.
In that instance where you're saying about the right tools, could you in some way liken that into the way that this, and I've never taken the CCDE, so excuse me, this is a very naive question. Could you liken that for the right tool for the job? Could you distinguish that to be similar to, say, a challenge that you're facing on the CCDE, where you're asked to choose, say, for example, a routing protocol, or how you would manipulate routes in there, say how you would manipulate BGP traffic or OSPF traffic, because there's certain parameters and they're not tools per se,
but technologies.
How do you make those decisions and those technologies? Is that something that you feel is similar?
Definitely. So this is the one thing that really jumped out. Yes, there was all this new stuff that I didn't understand, CI/CD and containers and all of that good stuff, and I had to go learn that and understand that. But when I was looking at things like how to use APIs and for which types of controllers use which type of APIs, and what functionality there is in those APIs and all that sort of good stuff, it struck me then that it's a very similar approach to so in the DE, what they teach is if you follow it quite strictly, what you learn to do is to be able to assemble tables of comparative tables for different types of technology. So you say, this VPN technology gives you this capability, but you're faced with this constraint and this constraint, right? And you build up this view of the different technologies and the similarities and the differences between them all. Well, when I was doing the study for the DevNet Associate, I was having to do the same thing with the technologies that were presented in the DevNet Associate. So things like understanding how APIs drive different controllers and how you assemble those API requests and what the capabilities are of the different platforms. And I found that really similar, that it's about understanding why it is you want to do the thing you're trying to do, and then assessing which technologies map into that capability, right? And so that's why I draw the parallel, because I think from a testing experience perspective, I think that the DevNet Associate is probably the closest thing I've seen to a CCDE written exam. Yeah, they're in terms of the way they were built out, which is another reason why people find it tough, because the point with the DE is if you've got loads of experience, then you're in a so much better place because your mindset is already about reasoning. It's about being able to compare and contrast, right? It's all up here.
Analytical skills.
Hey, Daren and team, real quick, I have to be the time police here. We're averaging about 10 minutes a question here, and we're supposed to get through 9 questions. This was question number 3, by the way, just so everyone knows. This is great information. I think it's great dialogue. I think it's important, but I think we got to kind of keep moving.
I think so long as we can incorporate some of the questions into
I agree.
Other answers. But
we can have a second question. Yeah. So back to you, Zig. If you want to add something, or for sake of time, you can move to the next one.
Yeah, I had one simple line. There's a lot of questions in chat, and the people that've been talking, if you guys could take a look at the questions, make sure I didn't say anything wrong, that'd be great. And then my question, or my one, evolving technologies comment on that last question is really about, you really need a governance model, right? They talked about CI/CD, all right? You really need to adopt some sort of governance model with this, because you have to have the approvals, the review boards, et cetera, to review everything that you're doing if you're going to use automation and programmability. All right, so this question here, will CCD actually impact your progress on evolving technologies? This is specifically for Orhan. So Orhan, buddy, here's a question for you. Will CCD actually impact your progress on evolving technologies? Orhan, are you muted, buddy? You're muted, yep.
Sorry for that again, I was muted. Okay, but yes, it will definitely impact. But before that, I wanted to answer couple questions actually in the chat window. Very fast, I want to go through them because they are anyway related with my answer as well. So first, I will answer probably 3 questions, but it will not take so much. Probably each one of them like 1 minute, something like that. Meanwhile, if you don't type anything, it's better for me because I cannot catch the question. Okay, first one was related with the. It should be here, yeah. If the CCD is about the why and not the how, can we say CCD is vendor neutral? CCD is vendor neutral, correct. And it's if you would say it's not the Cisco exam, I will say 90% correct. So there are still couple technologies there in CCD exam. You will see, yes, Cisco proprietary. And those are well known. The reason actually why they have 2 things in my opinion. One, they are widely deployed technology. Second, some of them already RFC we have. So what are those things? DMVPN, GetVPN, HSRP, GLVP, EIGRP, etc. So those are Cisco proprietary technologies, just what I counted, and they will come in the exam. And I'm not saying even might, so that's okay. So I am not giving you the answer. I'm telling you which technologies it's there. And in fact, on OrhanErgun.net, you can find a lot of blog posts which technologies are in the CCD exam anyway. But the thing is, RFC 7868 for IGRP. Informational RFC maybe, but it's there. Also, another Lisp might come in your exam, and Lisp also, I think 6820. So we have experimental RFC for that. Experimental, so if there are so much deployments, it can be even evaluated as a standard track. Okay, so you got the point. Because commonly deployed, also we have still RFCs. You might see those technologies. Other than that, almost everything is standard. Standard version of RFCs we have for them. Okay, the other technologies. That's why I can say vendor neutral. Correct. Second thing. Cloud. How cloud technology contents appear in the CCD? Again, CCD is architectural exam, as I told you, so you will do the comparison. Question might be between private, public, hybrid cloud. I will give you some requirements or constraints. Let's say which one is most scalable, which one would be most secure, something like that, and you will choose the most secure, most scalable, most abilities available, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you got the point again. Architecturally, you will choose which one. from which aspect. They will give you this. And of course, they will not tell you which one is most scalable. They will always give you in the CCDE exam the sentence, then you will analyze that sentence, what they are looking for. Okay, from the, let's say, time to market should be very quick, or we will merge with this company. So you are looking for agility, for example, those kind of things. But again, I mean, why we have CCDE trainings to teach those abilities, to teach analyzing those sentences and come up with the correct decisions by doing the trade-offs. Okay, another question. Very fast, I will answer this one as well, and then will CCDE actually impact your progress? We will look at that. Last question that now I want to give an answer. SR, MPLS, and SRv6, someone asked. Yes, SR definitely should be there. Why? I mean, I am not telling you what will be in the exam. I am telling you why it should be and will be in the exam. CCDE is layer 3 infrastructure exam, guys. Okay? You will not see much, especially CCDE practical exam. You will not see much layer 2 stuff there. And if you will see, probably 2 to 3%. The rest, we are talking about layer 3 infrastructure. So in this aspect, as you know, 8402, etc., we have many RFCs for segment routing and lots of deployments we are seeing for both SR and MPLS. Even yesterday, what we did, LinkedIn discussion, they are now considering, because their merchant silicon also supporting SRv6. So many deployments, even on the host, we are seeing SRv6, SR MPLS already there. In the exam, you will most probably see SRv6, especially it would be comparison from the data plane aspect. That's why SR MPLS, SRv6 we should expect in the exam. Anything in the layer 3, if it's deployed and if you have especially RFCs, start waiting in the exam. Okay, now will CCDE actually impact your progress? Of course, not only evolving technology. For me, those evolving technologies, whatever they are, it could be cloud, it could be automation, it could be anything in DevNet. For me, just another technology. I am not exaggerating for them at all. Let's understand technical depth and technical breadth. If you are talking about CCDE, if you are talking architect people, which means we are talking technical breadth, not depth. I don't need to know how to deploy things. I don't need to be Python developer, but I need to know, even with dealing with the Python, which library would help me. Those kind of high-level stuff. You will keep yourself at the high level. Or between YAML, XML, and JSON. Just if I would know high-level things, for me is enough. Then developer's job, we are looking from this aspect. If you want to be a programmer, that's a different story. But for me, as a network architect, I want to know and I need to know those stuff as well, because now it is reality. Let's admit, network automation and programmability is not far away. It's here, already there. Many companies, in fact, on my YouTube channel, I did videos with the real life deployments. Those people are not OTTs, over-the-top providers, content providers. Small, even data centers today, they are deploying automation. So if you are talking that you are architect, definitely you need to know anymore. Okay, this evolving technology from high level aspect. Why you are deciding this one and not another one? Then maybe someone will come, programmer will come and program it. Like as you would do with the traditional technology. You are deciding, let's say, 4G, not 3G in some areas in the country deployment. Mohammed, you are doing this. So when you selecting this, there is a reason, coverage and all those stuff. As an architect, you need to know which frequency band is important for you, and if you want to go far away, maybe low frequency. Guys, this is all about knowledge. Automation is another technology, programmability, or SD-WAN, SD access, just another technology for me. High level, I need to know. I need to expand my technical breadth. Of course, I will sacrifice from the technical depth. I cannot be very good Python developer at the same time that I can learn lots of other technologies, guys. I did a decision maybe 10 years ago. I will deal with the design and architecture, high level stuff. I will know many things. I cannot know everything, but I will know many things from high level aspect. And I could say, no, I don't want to know many things. I want to be wireless guy, and I will know each and everything about wireless. But if you are saying that you are a designer, you want to go after CCDE, you need to know any more evolving technology. There is no escape. You will know.
Right. So I'm going to pick that up and just go straight into the next question, because the next question was then talking about. Can you just change the slide, Mohammed?
Yeah, but just
we can just carry this straight into that, because from my point of view, right, there isn't a distinction, and that's the point here. I think exactly what Orhan's just been saying is that evolving technologies is important in the CCDE and the process that you're going through. When you're designing, you're not just designing a network. That's the key point here. You're not designing a network. You're designing something that underpins IT for an organization. So you're looking at the big picture every time. You're looking at, right, okay, I don't just want to build a network. I want a network that's supportable, that makes stuff available, that you can speed up operations, that's self-service, that's blah, 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 that's frictionless for people to consume. And this is the key. This is why we want to use evolving technologies and why we want to bring them to bear, because they make networks that we build better, faster, easier to consume. And so really all the evolving technologies are just more options and more constraints that we're applying to our network architecture, in my view. I think that's really important to just literally take the whole thing as one, because it's not one or the other. You need to understand, as a network architect, you need to understand why you would automate and the approach you might take. I mean, some of the stuff that Stuart was talking about before, about you understanding the principles of why you would use CI/CD, or why you would, use a particular programmability capability. But the point is, your organization is probably already doing that stuff in their application development. So why not understand it, understand what's going on over in the app dev, and use the same tooling that you're going to use in the big picture. But from a network architect perspective, I don't care what the tooling is, so long as it gives me the capabilities I need to deploy the stuff I need to deploy. Is that fair, Stuart?
Yeah, I just want to add there.
Absolutely fair.
Yeah, I was going to ask Stuart, sorry, that as an architect, it's like you are a technician with your toolbox and you have a lot of tools. So today you are going to use MPLS maybe because the customer doesn't have the skills to run sync routing or some specific requirements. So, and you have other tools, you have automation, you have Ansible, you have Python. So even for myself, sometimes I go to the customer, one of the implementation, I will go for Python. For the other customer use case, I will go for Ansible and so on. And as Daren mentioned, you don't just build network for just building a shiny devices, put it in the rack and connect it. We are building the network mainly for application. We need to think about our customer. Our customer for a network is the application, is the end user, is the people utilizing our network. If nobody is having application, there is no people actually want to be connected, want to communicate with each other, there will be no need for the network. So you need to think about the business requirement you are trying to achieve. You need to keep adding tools to your box, using the right tool, the optimal tool based on the customer requirement. Back to you, Stuart, if you want to add something. Relation between
absolutely. And I often go back to the way when I was a young lad, which was many years ago. It was all fields around here, and my father was when my father was working. He was a carpenter. He was a very skilled craftsman. Yes. And I always liken what I do in my work to the way that he worked, because when he was going to do a job, he took the tools that he needed from his tool shed, he put them into his toolbox, and he took them to do the job. And that's important. He didn't just get in his car van every day holding a hammer, because a hammer doesn't solve every problem, right? And you can't go at everything with people will say you can't get at everything with a sledgehammer. You shouldn't crack a walnut with a sledgehammer. It's going to work, but it's not the best thing. But this is what I liken to what you're talking about with tools. There are tools which are there to help you do a specific job, and you should utilize those tools. Those tools are fully there for you to utilize. And this can be something in that you mentioned with the CI/CD pipeline tools. This could be Python libraries.
Yes.
You know, you can go around. How many times have I seen people trying to doing something really complicated with Python, and you say, well, if you imported this library, you've just removed 50 lines of code.
Exactly.
You know, because this library will do it all for you. So you have to spend a little bit of time investigating which tools are going to know, and you have to know those tools. And we build them up, right? Like a tool belt. We put this tool belt on, like, well, I tell you, Batman's utility belt, right? Batman's utility belt. He's got his utility belt. You know, he can go into that utility belt and he can take out what he needs from that utility belt. And like my father did, he took the right tool out of the toolbox, do that job. Once you've got that experience with that tool and you know what you can achieve with that, great things can happen.
100% agree. I believe, Zig, you would agree with me that we are almost on the hour. So I was going to suggest if we can leave the floor now for our colleagues and friends to ask questions. Also, we have a lot of questions on the chat. So maybe we can stop here. We covered 5 questions. And I believe we can have a next session to carry on with the remaining question. Do you agree with me, Zig, or you have a different point?
No, I'm agreement 100%. So I think we open it up for questions. If anyone has any additional questions that hasn't been asked in chat or wants any clarification on anything, let us know. We're at the hour, right? So I think a few of us will stay a little later and make sure we can answer your questions if you have some. And then we'll let you know when we schedule another session to go over the rest of the questions, right? And obviously this was our first time. We didn't realize it'd take about 10 to 15 minutes to go through each question. We assumed 5 minutes was enough. So, just a time thing, and we'll readjust next time for sure.
Yeah. And one point also, Zig, I want to add, the good thing I will go over the chat, out the file, and maybe myself and Zig and the panelists, we can try even to take all this question and put the answer and maybe post it on, put it on the website. I believe it will be everyone, even attending or the people who didn't attend. If we capture all this question and put answer over there, I believe it will be very helpful for the community. So,
oh yes, for sure.
I think we could write it.
Right? With it all.
We could write it as a blog. Write it as a blog post or something, yeah. Because we can structure it and make sure we cover all the points. Yeah,
that's a great idea.
To do.
Well, guys, for example, if we are just finishing, we are not finishing, right? We will answer the questions or what?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe Zig.
Let me tell you something about this question. What is more important, the CCD or evolving technologies? If you got idea what I have been telling since we are, probably you know my answer now. There is no answer for this because there is no better. But if you would say, what is more important to find a job? Let's say, to find it. That is my requirement now. I will probably say evolving technologies. What is more important if you want to get more followers? Evolving technologies. What is more important for some aspect then? Yes. So, or trust me, Twitter followers, evolving technology. Just talk about Python, you will see a lot. So,
but it's the trade-offs you were talking about, Orhan, before, isn't it? It's like saying you have a question and you need to set the context for the question. If in the context of the question is, more followers on Twitter, what's more important, the CCDE or evolving technologies, then it's evolving technologies. If it's for building the best service for your customer, what's more important, the CCDE or evolving technologies? It's neither because it's both. That's the point, right? It's about setting the context, and that. What Orhan's just said is probably the most important thing in the whole CCDE process, is to be able to set the context, understand what it is you're trying to do and why. It's why.
Yes, the why, man.
Wow. Yeah, I agree.
The why. Real quick, it's your perspective. Like, that's really what it is. It's your perspective.
That's what it is.
Right? And honestly, these things are interweaved, right? They're not. So if you're going to pick one to go after right now, that's a different discussion, right? Like, if you're going to pick after DevNet versus CCDE, there's a decision there that you have to make. You can't focus on both at the same time. But these are interweaved items. So what you do on evolving technologies and what you do on the CCDE, they're always going to be interweaved moving forward and throughout our entire career in this industry.
Yeah.
And another angle, maybe Orhan touched on, it depends on your current position.
Yes.
in a pre-sales or architect, so definitely maybe CCDE will add more to you. If you maybe more fresh, working maybe to operation or implementation, maybe evolving technologies will make more sense for you. So the answer depends on the angle, and we're just sharing with you multiple angles and multiple perspectives to answer this question or context.
Yeah, perspective is the case.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. If you want to, I believe you have been doing a great job on the chat. So do you think we have a couple of questions to answer, or first, then open the floor for people to unmute themselves and ask direct question to any of the panelists?
Yeah, so real quick, there was a couple like logistical questions. Yes, this is recorded, and yes, we will be sharing the recording. It will be out on YouTube, and we'll send the links on all the socials and also email. So you guys will get all the links to these. And I know Mohammed and I had a plan to cut the videos on each question. We'll have to discuss how we're going to do that. I don't know if there's clear cuts, but we'll definitely get this out to you for the recording. And like we all talked about the kind of the questions in chat, we'll put it kind of in a blog post of some sort in the near future, just so everyone's aware. I think we answered most of the questions that I can see in chat. There's a whole bunch of questions here. I know Orhan answered a lot of them too on the technology side and the CCDE. I don't see any questions that weren't answered at this point in time. So I think we're good. But unless anyone else has any other questions that they didn't get to answer or ask and they want answered.
Yeah, so maybe I mentioned that let's open the floor for 10 minutes for any of the attendees. If you have any question on the chat which we didn't answer, please repeat it now out loud. Or if you have any question, ask it directly to one of the panelists.
Yeah, I have one of the questions.
Hi guys, this is Abhijit, and it is really a great session. Thanks for that. So I have a question regarding, you guys have been talking about comparison between CCDE and CCIE. So as a technical guy, I'm predominantly working in SP for the last 15 years. So, and I have a CCIE SP as well. However, due to my work constraints, I have not been able to explore much on data center and security. So my question would be, guys like me who want to make that jump from operational aspect to the design aspect. So I am also preparing for CCD. So so how do you feel about it? Like, let's say if that person doesn't have the how knowledge on any two or more of the networking aspects and has a very good in-depth understanding of the other couple of them, right? How to make that jump? Because CCD is basically an overall, knowledge it is required, right? On all the aspects, mostly on, routing, switching, service provider, data center, and to some extent security as well. So how to bridge the gap? Do we have to go through CCIs, multiple CCIs to get into that knowledge, get the how aspect? Or, if we know one of the domain quite well, then, how to cover the gap? That's what my question is.
That's a great question. I'm going to dive in first because I'm itching. From my perspective, Abhijit, I was a CCIE in RNS when RNS existed. Of course, it doesn't anymore. It's enterprise infrastructure. But I didn't have any service provider. I had a bit of data center, and it was really, for me, it was about building on what I'd done and learning the technologies. What I did was I don't know about the other guys, but what I did was I took the written exam and the DE to recertify my IE. Did that a couple of times over to get a handle on the technologies that were introduced in the DE syllabus that I wasn't familiar with, and then went ahead and did the DE lab. Which by that stage I'd got a handle on the technology because I'd done the study to get there. But I think it's completely feasible because you're not going into the low level detail and configuration of every technology. You don't need to have that IE level knowledge. Now, if you'd have asked me probably 5 years ago when I did my DE, if I should do CCIE service provider first or if I should do CCIE any other first, I would have said do service provider first, because it was very service provider heavy in the technologies. But since that time, things have moved and changed, and now it's not as heavy on the service provider side in the CCDE syllabus. There is a new syllabus coming up at some stage. We don't know when yet, but it's due soon, because they're reviewing, having done all the IE and NP and whatever over the last year or so. The DE is now following, but we don't know when that's going to be. So, but when they do that, it'll expect it to be even more general and have more other technologies outside of just service provider. So basically, what I'm saying to you is, read around the technologies that are in the syllabus that are outside your normal wheelhouse, and you'll get there. The biggest thing for me, and this is one thing I will share with you, right? That from my perspective, the most successful people sit in the CCDE exams are the ones with experience of design, right? If you've got in your mind a design approach, and when you look at the CCDE syllabus and the materials, and you go through Orhan's courses, and you're comfortable with how to approach these things and why it's different to studying for a CCIE, doesn't really matter what the technologies are, because you will have an innate ability to take on those new technologies and learn them. So long as you're a learner, and so long as you've got the right approach, then and with experience, you're going to do well in the DE practice. I
just want to add something, Dan. Thank you. For me, I did something bold. I was similar. I was mostly in service provider, working with big service provider, and as my last stages, I said I will widen my knowledge, very similar to you. So I took a bold move. I don't recommend it, especially now in the COVID. I said, let's move to another company which more specialized in data center, cloud, and security. Actually,
that's bold.
Yeah, that's very bold. I actually moved to another country. I left my comfort zone, and I started as an architect in security and data center and cloud. And I went there. I learned everything, and it's actually beneficial for me today. It's helped me in all the relevant technology, but it's still a bit bold. I don't do it now in the COVID situation, but I would stick with Daren's suggestion. But the extreme also is good.
Yeah, of course.
It will add to your experience, and learning by doing can be not comparable to any level of reading. They are comparable.
So
and Zig can add a lot here.
Yeah, so I'm going to add real quick, right? Because I'm going to go on my soapbox. So real quick, you don't need to know how to implement the technology, right? So if you're today a CCIE and service provider, you know how to implement a lot of certified technology, inter-AS options, carrier supporting carrier, multicast VPNs, right? That's your bread and butter. But as you prepare for the CCDE, you don't need to know how to implement the same type of highly complex technologies on like the data center side or the security side or the campus side or whatever, the wide area network side. You need to understand how to choose the right solution by comparing other solutions and what the design benefit is for that situation. So as long as you can do that, you're going to be successful. You do not need a CCIE to take the CCDE. There's a question in chat. I think Michael asked, do you have to have the CCIE to take the CCDE? No, you do not. There are a lot of people who have taken the CCDE without a CCIE and they've been successful. It does help having some experience with the technology, but you do not need to have that low-level experience to pass the CCDE. And the last question that was in chat real quick, while I have the time, what advice can you give us about how to deal with so many technologies and remembering them? I would break it up to the capabilities that technologies provide. Specifically those capabilities, and compare the capabilities with other technologies that are technically competing technologies. And what are the pros and cons? Set up a comparison chart, right? Orhan has a whole bunch of comparison charts as an example, right? And I know Mohammed and I did one on data center interconnects maybe like 5 months ago. You literally take a situation, compare every single option, and then you can easily see, okay, this is better in this situation, and this is better in that situation. That's what the CCD is all about.
Yeah. This is what Orhan was talking about the context, right? So exactly that. what you're doing is you're looking at technologies and how they address how they work in a specific context, and that's the key. Be able to compare that. Be able to if you're in a position. Here's the other thing, right? And forgive me for saying this, Orhan in particular. You don't necessarily want to use other people's materials for this. You want to do this yourself because you want to not work through and understand yourself how things compare in your own mind, so you're able to reason yourself. You can use other people's materials as a guide to an approach, but actually go through the process yourself. So, for example, someone mentioned earlier VPN technologies. List out the VPN technologies, understand for yourself why each one is good and bad in what scenarios, and build out that comparison chart yourself. It's great having someone to refer to, but you will never learn it the same way if you just read someone else's chart. Build it yourself, because that's and I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about the DevNet Associate. Do the same thing. If you're going for the DevNet Associate, do the same thing. Understand, right, I want to use this API in order to do this thing. How's it the best way of doing it, and how does that compare with doing it other ways with other approaches? It's a really, really good study mechanism, because you study and learn it, and you don't have to summarize it in notes. You summarize it in tables.
But with this self-paced study, there are a couple of things. I am not on mute. I thought I muted again. Couple problems with the self-paced study. People were asking about this one. Will you teach, or self-paced study is enough? Couple problems with that is, okay, who is the trainer? So, or who, if you are, let's say, reading blog post, who wrote that blog post? Who is the author? Or book, let's say, who's the author? That's important. Yep. Because people might be just writing wrong things, or they might be just copy pasting from someone else. They don't have any insight. Yep. That's one thing. Another, even the person is like an authoritative person. People are respecting, everyone accept that. When he wrote that document or book or video, the time is important, because really technologies, those protocols are changing, evolving, and maybe 7 years ago I wrote the book and things changed now, and it might be again misleading. One more thing. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I agree with what you're saying completely. The information you use to study this has to be from a reliable source, from an authoritative source, and a current source. Definitely, really, really important. The other thing, and I think you might be mentioning this, is the idea of a study group. I know from a DE perspective, a lot of people get a lot from being able to have, in fact, debates just like this about the technologies and about the approaches. And I think that's helped pretty much everybody that I've come across in DE has done that. I didn't, but that was just because I was fortunate enough to have the time to do it the way I needed to do it. But I know Zig, I know Mohammed, I think you as well, and I know a whole load of guys that I know from the DE community have taken that approach. The beauty of that is, as well, is the community that it leaves behind afterwards. Because and this is one thing I will say before I shut up, is that the group of CCDEs, although it's quite a select group, there are probably 500 of us, I think, on the planet at the moment. We know each other, we trust each other, we work together. We are a community, and probably more than any other I've been involved with, other than the DevNet community, and it's a very similar ethos there to sharing knowledge, to bringing each other on, and to helping each other out. So, and that's me done.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump in on Daren's study group comment real quick, right? So I was in a study group for going out to the CCDE. I was in a study group for a year. We met every Saturday and Sunday for 4 hours each day. And it was extremely useful, because I'm in the US and my experience is specifically US based, and I didn't see a lot of the other requirements that are worldwide requirements. And so we brought people into that study group that had totally different experiences and totally different constraints and requirements. And you don't see those things if you don't either interact with someone else and they share those use cases, those design situations, or you got to either be in those situations or you got to read about them. So that's where I would recommend a study group is probably one of the most important aspects, is to talk about other design situations that you wouldn't have experience in or a use case in, and then also have real life conversations and discussions on why the design choice was made, and bring it back to the business, bring it back to the requirement, and then after you understand that, change the requirement and have live conversations about it.
I was going to add, like, the question was all about evolving technologies. So as I mentioned earlier, I believe there's like levels of learning and how long it will remain in your memory and how to put to solid memory and so on. There's a lot of techniques you can find it on the internet, but as I mentioned, it's always learning by doing. I remember maybe 20 years back or so, I was a professional engineer in voice, but after a couple of years, I stopped practicing voice, so I lost it. So if you want to keep on maybe DevNet, Python, and this stuff, maybe now it's easy. You can have your own small lab. Even if you have projects, this would be better. If you don't have, maybe after a couple of weeks, maybe you go and make your hand dirty, try to work on cloud, maybe instantiate your free cloud platform and work on it. So keep practicing, keep reading, and keep practicing, and keep visiting these evolving technologies regularly. And make every and check what's happening. Follow some of the blogs. There's a lot of interesting resources. The SDX Central and a lot of other material you like reading and so on. So keep always refreshing your knowledge. Keep visiting this new technology and try as much as you can to keep your hands dirty and do some practicing, even if it's high level. And I believe maybe Stuart can add also some good tips when it comes to how to keep in track and keep up to date with all these evolving technologies in parallel.
Yeah, I mean, keeping up with the technologies in parallel, I think is kind of key, especially from a career aspect as well. You want to be focusing on the things that are going to project your career and where you're going to be or where you want to be in 5 years' time. So you have to start thinking about if that's where you want to be in a perspective of the network and programmability. And as we've seen from the kind of the job market and the way that the job market has certainly evolved within the last 18 months, it's gone from desirable skills to must-have skills now, and a lot of places now, even for network engineering roles, you are going to be expected to take some kind of, there was always a test, a configuration test. I've done this many times in my career, but now besides the, can you configure this? Can you actually write some code as well? And this is becoming, part of this as well. And for a lot of people, again, this can be very daunting to sit, in a coding interview, but also as well, just think that, even if you don't get the code right, it's how you actually think about it, how you actually go around to solving it. You might not be able to write that particular piece of code. It might be beyond your coding skill. But if you can tell that person that you're speaking to, perhaps the best way to solve this or to get this information back is if you did it by searching, for a binary number or just by searching by a number, it's not going to yield the best results. But if you did this by using regular expression, then this would be the possible way to get the correct information back. So being able to analyze and think through those situations is a whole part of it as well, because as all of you superstars have mentioned, it's much about being able to apply it, but it's as much about the mindset as well that you're able to apply to solve these problems, to be able to do this. So, looking forward, code is, engineers are now becoming a lot more proficient in code. I think we've gone past that, that first initial step, and now more and more people are jumping onto this, than they ever were before. We've seen that huge uptick. It's been absolutely massive. And this is what people are now looking to do, in my eyes, from their career perspective and the way that they want to grow their careers, completely. So,
Brilliant, brilliant. So thank you, everyone. As promised, we will have another session. We will carry on the other question, and we also go and check all the chat. And if you found other question, we will add it in the blog post. But before we finish, maybe for each one of the panelists, if you can give us like a quick summary or brief, no more than 30 seconds. And we'll start alphabetically again. Daren, I warn you. 30 seconds, Daren, your last note for today.
Yeah, okay, very, very quickly then. So from my perspective, what is network architecture and design? What's it there to do? It's about maximizing the availability of the IT services that sit over the top of it, okay? So it's foundation for everything. Make sure that what you're building is something that's available, that it's supportable, that it's simple, that it's secure, all of those things. But ultimately, it's about making sure that the service stands up. And that means it's not just about the technologies you're deploying. It's not just about being able to automate it, but it's about being able to operate it and be able to make sure that that everyone can use it and use it in a way that keeps it easy and simple for them. And that is me.
That would say
40 seconds.
40 seconds, million, but not 2 hours.
That was 33.2. 33.2 seconds. I'm tracking.
Yeah. Orhan, give us your experience in 30 seconds. What shall we do? CCDE or
40 seconds is really short.
If it's give, I will give 3 advice in 30 seconds.
You think I'm bad? You think I'm bad?
You have three advices in 30 seconds. So.
Okay. By the way, Aaron just counted 4 things: availability, simplicity, secure, and one more thing. It was choose probably 2 of them, not all of them at the same time. So you got the point, I think. There is no all of them together. You will choose something. Trade-offs, trade-offs, trade-offs. By the way, for the certification, to say this one, CCIE, let's say, CCDE, and project manager. Okay, project management. If you today, especially CCIE, because consists of design as well, if you remove the configuration from CCIE, you get CCDE anymore. And if you remove requirements and constraints from CCDE, you get project management, guys. So you see the abstraction. Choose. And if you want to be located in a different country, different company, then go with the probably CCIE today. And if you want to be abstracted, but deciding the architecture of the company, but you might have hard time to find a job, then go with the CCDE and project manager. I think you can be everywhere anyway. Okay?
Brilliant, brilliant. Great stuff, Orhan, as usual. Stuart, 30 seconds, give us some tips about evolving technologies and specifically for people preparing for that, what do you need to do?
So people preparing for DevNet have obviously a huge amount of free resources on DevNet. Please take full advantage of the sandboxes. You can just log in, use the sandboxes. You don't have to have any of the equipment yourself. Gone are the days of having 50 routers stacked up in your front room or humming away. You know, we've got everything in the sandbox for you free to log in and learn a huge ton of amount of content. And don't forget, 6 weeks left in 2020. Do you want to be part of the DevNet class of 2020? 6 weeks left to take a DevNet exam. Any DevNet exam, whether that's associate one, the specialist, or the core, will get you into the DevNet class of 2020.
Stuart, real quick. Stuart's very modest. I want to just highlight real quick. He's got over 50 blog posts on the development.cisco.com site. So make sure you go over there and read his blog posts. He is a rock star. So do not let him diminish himself at all. Tons of content for free for you to consume. And then maybe you'll figure out what role his beard plays in his band.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zig, back to you. So
I'm next. I'm the next one.
You summarize this, close this, everybody, and then we're ready to go.
Hey guys, I appreciate everyone being here. I want to be real quick, right? So we usually try to keep these to 45 minutes because we lose people. I'm looking at the clock. We're almost 30 minutes over on time, and we still have everyone still on the webinar. So obviously this hit what you're looking for. So we will definitely come back with more content, more panelists, same group of panelists too. We'll get these questions answered for you. So let us know if there's anything else you want want us to do, we're here to do it for you. I think this is extremely impactful, and I'm a big fan of the CCDE, network design, and obviously evolving technologies. That's it for me. I'm going to give it back to Mohammed, and he can wrap it up.
Everyone again, Daren, you've been and even and looking forward to related on later. See you next. Bye.
Bye, everyone.